Well, a very good afternoon. Thanks for clicking on to the February forecast edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Yes, we're entering the final month of winter 2015-16. Pretty incredible how quickly time has rattled on. Of course, after the very warm December, really November-December period, we did see a bit more of a winter pattern during the month of January, and as a response to that, we're actually seeing a fairly cold month across northern Europe, and that chill extends into at least the northern half of the British Isles. If you check out the written post in the above text, anyway, you can see the anomaly for the month of January, and certainly from really the south of the UK southbound, it has been a warmer than normal January. But the reason why we're seeing somewhat of a more winter-like pattern with really the deepest Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation for the month of January anyway, since probably 2010. And the reason for that is that we've seen a system, of course it was Storm Frank, caused all sorts of problems here across the UK, injected a lot of warm air into the polar region, and what that did is it distorted the polar circulation, which had been up until then fairly strong. And what that did is essentially pumped high pressure into the Arctic, reverting, changing from low pressure to high pressure, then forced a lot of the cold air south into many parts of the middle latitudes, including Europe and the British Isles. Now, some of you will probably say, well, to be honest with you, Mark, it wasn't really much of a cold spell, and right enough, it was probably a run-of-the-mill cold spell by UK standards. It wasn't anything exceptional, it wasn't anything extreme. But what I will say is this much, it did actually catch me by surprise. Now, initially going all the way back, I did think that January is going to provide more winter weather. I think I always thought December would be a milder month, with the possibility of something colder at the end. That never materialised. And then at the very end of the month, before Storm Frank showed signs of causing a large-scale shift in the upper pattern, I was struggling to see any cold during the month of January, to be honest, based on the fact that the polar vortex was extremely strong, and there was no real sign that there was going to be anything to change that. But of course, we've seen Storm Frank pump a lot of heat into the Arctic, then forcing a lot of the Arctic air south. And we've seen some fairly substantial cold across Europe for that week or so. It has reverted back. We've seen a cooling of the polar stratosphere. We've seen a reorganization over the pole, and therefore we've seen the NAO and the AO going back positive. So what that does is it essentially forces the jet to go further south once again, flattens it out, and it strengthens it. And we're going to see over the next week, 10 days, one low after the next coming into the UK. Now this one here off the GFS surface at 12Z on Tuesday is in fact the very system that brought the record snowfall to the eastern United States over the past 36 hours. What it will do is essentially as it leaves the US, it then becomes an ordinary area of low pressure, and the reason being is it was actually high pressure sitting over Canada, acted like a wheel, driving that Arctic dry air into the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. This system that brought the very wet, snowy conditions, dumping in excess of 40 inches in parts of West Virginia, upwards of 30 inches in JFK on the eastern side of New York City, was the fact that there was such cold, dry air in place. Then that system with Gulf moisture, then eventually Atlantic moisture was drawn in as well. It drove into that cold air, forced the precipitation to fall as snow. As soon as that system leaves the coast, it leaves the cold air behind, and therefore there is no cold air associated with it. And in fact, that system, once it reaches our shores, potentially by the time we get to early and mid Tuesday, will drive some fairly mild air because it's pulling in warmer air from the south as it makes an approach at the UK here. So wind and rain will be the factor, not snow, across really all of the British Isles and indeed Ireland as well. Now what is very interesting is if you skip right through, this is a very basic upper level pattern at the moment over the next 10 days, so there's really no point in skipping through the map. There's nothing particularly exciting to see. Let's skip out to 144, and this is next Saturday morning. And look at the depth of that pressure here within this really deep storm to the northwest of Scotland here come Saturday morning. The squeeze in the isobars, factoring in high pressure of 1037 to 1036 millibars from the Azores to southern France, indicates that we've got a very, very tight gradient here, which could indicate really, really stormy conditions next Saturday. A long way out, it's a week away, so let's not buy into it too quickly. But we could see some fairly stormy conditions over the next 10 days, and that will take us, I believe, into the month of February. The one very, very good factor in all this, folks, is the stratosphere. We are seeing a distinct warming going on at 10 millibars, which is going to then transfer down towards the 50 millibar level, and then eventually, hopefully, the 500 millibar level, which is really, really worth paying attention to here. So if you just bear with me 1 second, I want to show you exactly what's taking place here. So in recent times, we've seen the Arctic warming in response to the storm. Not so much. I don't believe it's directly down to the stratospheric warming, because if you look at a cross section of the northern hemisphere, the top half is still cold. It's only the bottom half that's warm. So that instigates the system that came up from the south over the UK, dumping record rains, then forced the lower Arctic atmosphere to warm up sufficiently to bring block and high pressure. We didn't see top-down warming, but we may, excuse me, we may well do as we push into the early part of February. So I think really beyond, say, the 10th or the 15th of February, I've always said that February would be the month for winter across the UK and Europe, and I still stand by that factor here. But if you skip through here, you see a fairly substantial cold stratosphere here, but if you skip on through 5 days from now just, and you can see here that we've got some significant shifting, stretching out, elongation of that vortex here. There is some significant wave breaking going on, and if you get enough wave breaking, we go from phase 1 into 2. That progresses the setup here for a sudden stratospheric warming event. This could lead to a more significant negative Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation, I would say particularly mid to late month of February. I do think we've got more snow, we've got more cold, and potentially much worse than what we've seen back in January as we push into mid and late month here. If you skip out the 168 hours, you can see here that that vortex is well stretched out now. There's a lot of warmth up at 10 millibars now, extending over the western and central Arctic region, including the North Pole here. So there's a lot of indication that we could see a sudden stratospheric warming event late January, and then we see the response generally 6 to 10 days later down at the surface and in the mid latitude region. By the time we skip out to 192, sorry, you can see here that we continue to see the progression of this warming. Nothing is written in stone that we're going to see this, but I do suspect that we are going to return to a colder pattern. The modelling, if you look at the GFS, the ECMWF, the modelling has a tough time seeing what's going on in the stratosphere, so therefore without seeing it, it doesn't really know to predict anything other than the same type of mild positive AO-NAO pattern that we've got at the moment here. So a lot of interesting things to come. Keep checking back here. If you're not a subscriber to markfootballweather.com, there's a lot more detail in there. For only a mere £3 a month, you're going to get daily posts 7 days a week generally of Europe and also the United States, of course. So like I say, give it a try if you haven't already done so, and do check out the website. Hope you have a great Sunday, and hopefully we'll have what I think will be a wintry month during the month of February. Thanks for watching if you're on YouTube. Bye for now.